Hi, I'm Kate Bock, and we are back with Dr. Daria. She is a Harvard and Yale trained ER doctor. She is the founder of the burnout study in women, and today's topic on our show is all about burnout. So we are so excited to kind of get all of these topics covered. This is definitely more questions that we all get all the time. Mindbodygreen and I both pulled our audiences, and these are the questions that we were asked. So we're just getting the most kind of clear and doctor derived answers that we can. So let's share and welcome Dr. Daria. Hello.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
So excited to have you today as the professional specifically on this topic that I think so many women kind of wonder about and I'm sure struggle with and without even knowing sometimes. So if we dive right into this, I think the first question is what are some symptoms of burnout and how is it bad for you?
I think you just mentioned it, Kate. It's so important we talk about this because so many women don't even know what they're struggling with. They don't have a name for it. They just know that they feel like really miserable. And so that's why we started the study of burnout in women because I tried to look at the data and just found that it was really missing. So but for symptoms, just so people know, like, do you have burnout? Burnout is different from stress. Stress is something stressful that happens that day and you get better and you get stressed and then you get better. Burnout is chronic and pre-burnout. It's when you start to feel that way all the time. You never feel recovery. That's really a key thing. It's like you just never feel that you're recovering from it. You start to feel that kind of state of depletion. And then it's kind of characterized by you feel maybe cynical. Maybe you feel ineffective, whether it's in your job or at home, and it doesn't feel rewarding. You don't feel like you're doing a good job. Um, and you just get really frustrated by all of it. And Kate, I think it's also really important. One of the reasons why we're doing the research is people usually think about burnout from work, or that they have this in work. And one of the things I think many of our viewers might say is, sure, you might be burned out in work, but you can also get those things from caregiving, from parenting, from like life in general. And so it's really important to look. Any one of those things can lead to a state of burnout, and they all affect each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think this topic is extra relevant to me right now. I'm kind of at the stage of life where a lot of my girlfriends are having babies or starting businesses or both or taking over their family business and kind of maybe in a transition phase where there's a lot going on. And I literally got a call from one of my best friends like last week, just like, I feel like I'm not good at anything. I'm trying to do everything and I'm failing at all of the things. And I don't know how to even get better because I can't take any time off from any of them. And I don't know what to do. So I really think that it's a topic that is very, very relevant right now.
That's so. If like there were to be a mantra of like the burnout woman, not that we want to burn out a mantra of the burnout woman, but what you hear her say is, "I feel like I'm not doing any of these things well, and when I'm doing one of these things, I feel guilty or bad that I'm not doing the other thing." Like if you can answer yes to those things, either of those at all, then yeah, those are symptoms of burnout and pre-burnout where you want to try to intervene.
So, what are some of the things that we can do to help this or prevent it, or kind of once we've realized we're deep in it to get ourselves out?
Yeah, so this is so important. And why we're doing this study, because everybody talks about, oh, we're all burned out. You have all these anecdotes. And I started to look because I wanted to write an article on it. And I was like, but what do we do about it? Why is no one studying this? Let's stop lamenting it and let's start finding solutions. And I think it's really important to say stress is inevitable. Stress is a factor of our world. And if you're not experiencing stress, I mean, good on you. But the issue is stress itself isn't the bad thing. Stress is inevitable. It's a key factor of life in today's world, but burnout is not. So that's really important. Stress can be a good thing. Stress can make us focus. Stress can make us, maybe if you're a little stressed about like a shoot that you have coming up, maybe it makes you exercise a little bit better or eat a little bit better. It makes me focus when a patient comes in or to study something if I know I'm going to have if I have a patient cases that I need to be able to see. So a little bit of stress isn't bad. It's when it becomes chronic and you don't get that recovery that it goes into burnout. That is a problem. So I want everybody to think about it this way, is to start thinking about burnout. Sometimes, like even with your friend, it just starts to feel so bigger than us and it's existential. And I'm doing this wrong and I have this and this and this. And I'm so bad and all of it. And it's burnout and I just can't get a handle on it. Stop. Burnout is just an imbalance between your resources in your demands. And so when you start to feel, and it starts to feel all in your head, because we all do that, to say, is this one thing I'm worried about right now? Is it a resource issue? Or is it a demand issue? And when I'm talking about resources, resources can be anything from external, like support and help in childcare, or a supportive boss, or what other things that you have, or internal, like your mindset, your self efficacy, or your behaviors, like lifestyle behaviors, taking time for yourself. Those are resources. Those help us address all the other stuff. And then there are demands. Demands can be everything from like a new work to do. It can be an extra thing that you didn't see on your plate. It can be COVID and lockdown. It can be, that black fly in your Chardonnay, as Miss Alanis Morissette told us so long ago. Those are demands. And so whenever you see, she knew well. She's a muse. So whenever you see something and you start to feel yourself get into your head, say, wait, is this a resource or a demand issue? How can I address it? Can I up my resources, or can I lower a demand, which sometimes is saying no to something? Because then you can start to say, okay, what is the one next thing I need to do? One next thing. Get out of all the other things. This is what we do in the trauma bay in the ER when it feels like you have 1,000 things to do. What is the one next thing? And if suddenly the problem seems a lot more handleable.
Yeah, it brings you kind of back into perspective and just living in the moment and kind of being present. I remember we were watching a speaker, and I'm so bad, I'm not going to remember his name. So I feel bad. So maybe I'll have to credit him after. But he was saying he was a rock climber. And like when you're rock climbing, it takes you out of any other thought process in your head, because all you can do is think about the next step. If you're not latched onto a mountain, like that is the only thing you're thinking about. And so you have to kind of remind yourself to stay present in a moment and not kind of, I mean, I notice in myself, I get kind of stressed out about things that once I'm actually in them, they're not stressful, but it's sort of like whatever my brain is like worried about the prep for, or have I studied enough, or have I done enough? But I have. And I find really ways that help me with that is writing down notes and crossing things off lists. And that might sound very kindergarten, I don't know, but I just, when I can see that I did something and that it's actually crossed off, like not even deleted, but like crossed off, like I accomplished this, I think that really helps me kind of feel good about myself and my accomplishments for the moment or the day. And I also notice personally the kind of things that you're describing. I feel kind of the most like a simple task becomes very stressful to me when I'm overtired. If I haven't slept well, suddenly a small task, like I could burst into tears because it's too much and I feel like I can't do it. And there's too many things on my plate but it's really just that I didn't sleep well. Do you feel like that has a big impact on burnout?
Amen. And I have to tell you a story from when I was working in the emergency department, because, sleep and burnout are really intertwined. We talked about those resources that you need to fight burnout. Sleep is a resource. So if sometimes when you feel like I'm feeling burned out, my demands are here, my resources are down here, just getting sleep can make that even. When I was in residency, I was up at Yale, and I'd worked like some 36-hour shift. I don't know. I'd been awake for hours on end. And something happened with my coffee. And I remember I started bawling, ugly crying. And my residency director came up and she's like, Darria, what's wrong? I was like, I don't even know. And she said, I know why. You said you're crying because you are sleep deprived. And sleep deprivation is a torture tactic. They use it to break people. And like suddenly I was like, oh, like A, I'm not crazy. And B, I will never be a spy, because I would give away nuclear secrets right now to take a nap. But it's really important to know, again, that's why like burnout isn't existential. So it's just resources, and you might just need to eat or sleep or just go for a walk or punch a bag. Sleep is really important.
Kevin and I, between the two of us, with our crazy schedules, whether it's basketball games and prep for games, or I'm flying for a job, I mean, I'm literally all over the place all the time. And between the two of us, we've done like a personal sleep study. I feel like we track our sleep with our Aura rings that we both wear, and we almost like compete with it and play games to try to see, if we are not watching TV before bed, what does that do to impact our sleep? Or if, on game nights, we actually eat dinner quite late because we eat after a game at like 11 p.m. And what does that do for your sleep? And then we tried doing vegan dinners when they were late night to see if like more easily digestible foods were going to help. So I really feel like I've done like a study of sleep. And something that I've tried that's really worked for me is the sleep support from MBG. So it's just a supplement I can take before bed. I take about 30 minutes to an hour before I want to fall asleep. And I think a lot of people get that anxiety of the actual falling asleep. Like when you get in bed and you can't fall asleep, it's torture. So if you can take a little natural something that will just kind of help your eyes feel heavy, that is like a dream. And it really kind of, it takes the stress off of sleeping, I think.
Yeah, and I think you are really right in a lot of things you mentioned because it's that erratic schedule that can make sleep hard. And,
Hmm.
one of the things for two reasons, like our brain loves a routine. And when you're eating,
Hmm.
for his games, you're having to suddenly eat later or earlier, or any other things that makes it really difficult. So what I tell also a lot of people is that you have to find a variety of things that work for you. Consistency is great. If you can get to bed at the same time every night, that's fabulous.
Hmm.
um, for a lot of us, like yourself included, for me, it's not always possible. If I'm working a late shift, the shift could end at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., or some shifts end at 2 a.m. or they're overnight, and so
Hmm.
sometimes you have to do other things. And another thing I also talk about is really leveraging your circadian rhythm. So circadian
Mm.
rhythm, it's about a day is the Latin translation. It's 24 hours, and the number one signal for your circadian rhythm is light. So, Kate,
Mm.
you can go home, and it's called Zeitgeber is the word. So you can go throw that out next time you're talking to Kevin and be like, our number one Zeitgeber is light. That'll beat him
Ooh.
on his aura ring contest. And but so light is it, and so how do we leverage that? Again, how do we rewire our circadian rhythm? Because for so many of us, if you are
Hmm.
getting to bed, you talked about that, you get to bed and you are exhausted, but your eyes don't feel heavy because you're
Yeah.
wired and tired. It means your circadian rhythm is in jet lag
Off.
effectively. So
Yeah.
you leverage light. So that means that for an hour and a half before bed, you aren't using bright lights. We turn off the bright overhead lights. We just use dim 30 watts or less lights at all of our bedside stands. You're turning off your
Hmm.
devices. If you have trouble falling asleep, I tell people you turn off your device for
Hmm.
60 to 90 minutes before bedtime because it suppresses your melatonin for 90% by 90%.
Hmm.
Or you can wear one of these lovely, wear a blue blocker glasses if
Yep.
you really got to get on. They're super fashionable.
Oh,
Please don't make this
Kevin
the
has
cover of Bark
those.
Photo. Oh, they're super fashionable. They'll be all over the runways next spring.
We'll design
Um,
a collection. Don't worry.
can we please? Because we'll work on that. That's for our next project. So dim the lights, dim the devices at night, and then on the flip side, when you wake up in the morning, first thing you do is get bright light because what are you doing? You're resetting your circadian rhythm for the day. So it'll make you more awake at that moment and make it easier to fall asleep at night.
That's interesting because I we actually both wear eye masks and have blackout curtains in our bedroom. So I think that really it's like pure blackness. And I didn't do that until I met him. And then he did that. And I really do find if I need to fall asleep, I didn't realize that if there was like a little bit of a light, sometimes if your TV is even off, it still has like a red light or something on the corner. Those little lights can actually bother you. And if I wear an eye mask, I can sleep much better. So it's kind of an interesting. I always thought they were sort of like for glamorous, breakfast at Tiffany's kind of moments, but they really actually do. Not always when I'm going to bed, but we put those on and stopped. Like we watch our shows and then before bed we kind of get all ready. One thing that I noticed that we both tried that really worked is if you take a hot Epsom salt bath before bed, it's like it relaxes my entire nervous system and calms my body. And the impact that has, I've found is significant. Like if we both want to have a good sleep, turn the lights off in the bathroom, I light some candles, and like an Epsom salt bath completely calms my entire body. I find that incredible.
So, Kate, you're like a lab in your own home in terms of sleep.
We
I
try
love
it
everything
all.
you just said. When you talked about for light in your bedroom and the night mask is what I had to tell people to do is I call it my bedroom light audit. I say go in your
Mm,
bedroom at night when it's dark, turn off the lights, let your eyes adjust, and then look around. And you'll often find there's little blinky lights. It's either your cable box or
mm-hmm.
your alarm or your thermostat or a smoke detector coming around the windows. All of those actually you just said it. Even if your eyes are closed, the back of your eyeballs will sense even these tiny amounts of light and it will suppress you from being able to go into that deeper sleep and it will cause your body to
Yeah.
suppress melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So that's really important. I love it. You want a really dark room. And the other thing is that
Yeah.
warm bath before bed, your body
Mm-hmm.
naturally drops in temperature before bed, which is why you want a cool room, 63 to 68 degrees. And so you take
Mm-hmm.
that nice warm bath, and then when you get out of the bathtub, it causes your body temperature to drop, and your body is like, oh, or your brain thinks, oh, my body temperature dropped. It's time to go to sleep. Hence, sleepy time.
It works. I'm fully bought in on that one.
All these sleep tips help you have the resources you need to get out of burnout.
Yes. I also unfortunately find if you drink anything, even if it's one glass of wine, it for sure affects your sleep, which
Mhm.
we just got to find the balance on that because I'm not cutting the red wine completely, but maybe it's not an everyday thing because it for sure affects it. And
Mhm.
we were doing kind of listening to podcasts or stories. So you can still, it doesn't mean an hour and a half before bed, there's, silence in the house,
Right.
but maybe just no
Mm-mm.
screens and we just have a sound on. And then I think it also is
Right.
something you can do together
Right.
with someone, and listening to
Right.
a story or something can kind of be a calming, it's like
Mhm.
an adult bedtime story, but we love
Which
that.
could mean a whole lot of different things, Kate, but we're not talking about those bedtime stories. That's a different show. But no, you're right. And even if you do need to watch something on your iPhone, again, it's your blue blockers, or you can set it to night mode. None of those are perfect, but the other thing is you can watch television. Keep it 6 feet or more away, and it's not going to have that blue light effect.
Okay, that's good to know. How can we manage burnout and build resilience, particularly in demanding jobs? Can you still get burnout if you love your job?
Ooh, this is a real there's 2 questions there, and I'm gonna answer it in reverse, if that's okay. They used to think with burnout research that loving your job, or effectively the research term is engagement, that it was the opposite flip side of the coin of burnout, that if you have engagement, you can't have burnout. Research now shows that's actually not true. You can be highly engaged and still experience burnout. It's slightly different. It's again, though, comes down to that balance of resources and demands. So yes, you can. But so then what do you do, whether you love your job or not? One of the biggest things is to, but we'll talk more cerebral and then get to tactical. On the cerebral side is finding meaning in your job. And that's easy if you really love your job, but what does it do for you? What does it do for others? And having that why, um, that always makes a difference. So finding that meaning, and you don't get it every step. It's like every day may not be fulfilling, Zen moments, but you have that meaning. So that's one. Then, three tactical quick things. One is finding that self efficacy, like what is in your control. Even if you are, maybe if you're Jeff Bezos, but even if you're Jeff Bezos, maybe Jeff Bezos and Oprah, but pretty much everybody else has things that are out of their control and then things that are in their control. And so when you experience those things that are out of your control that may be frustrating, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a deadline, those could be brick walls, but instead, oftentimes I can find instead of trying to fight against a big brick wall, try to go around it. What is in your control? Maybe how you interact with that coworker, maybe the projects that you pick with that coworker, maybe the deadline, it can't be changed, but the scope can, or how your team divides out something. So, what is in your control? Whatever it is, whether it's work or home or something with your children, your partner and how they do it. So, number one is always say, okay, I can't control everything. I can't control COVID and lockdown, but what is in my control? I can't control my child's school schedule, but what is in my control? I can pick their after school schedule or not. I can pick, our home schedule. Like, what are those things in my control? Number two is finding boundaries. Today, it's so hard in our world. It's like 24/7, but I think we carry it to the extreme. I think everybody tends to pick up their phone at all hours, but do you really need to? Have something, I have very much at the end of my day, end of my work day, even though sometimes I'll end up doing work after the kids go to bed, but I very much say, okay, it's X PM, whatever time it is that day that I'm stopping. I'm stopping. I'm getting up from my desk. I'm not going to be checking my email constantly for the next at least 2 hours. So maybe I'm spending time with my kids. I might pick it back up that evening. But here's a boundary. Put
Hmm.
that boundary in. We all can do that a little bit more. Maybe if you need to hear from some people, make them VIPs so their messages get through, but create
Yeah.
boundaries. The third is to deliberately carve out time for things that you want to do and to be very present in those. So when you are, I'll say, I'm going to stop early this day at 2 p.m. to do something with my daughter. Well, that means that up until 2 p.m., I can proceed with work without feeling guilty because I know I'm going to have that time later. And then at 2 p.m., I can say, I worked really hard until 2 p.m. So now I have this time with her. So I'm a big fan of compartmentalizing and kind of batching your day because then you actually, when you take those 2 hours, you can enjoy it as well.
Pretty much answers to most of these questions are planning ahead, scheduling, making sure that you've kind of prepared. Because I think it is always in all of these cases when you're always trying to, when can I fit it in? Or I'm not sure, I don't know. That's when you get stressed. That's when you stress eat. That's when you kind of get burnt out and frustrated. So I think a lot of it comes with prep and kind of just making sure you've kind of set yourself up for a great day or experience. I also find when I get overstressed or burnt out or frustrated, I feel lucky that I have a really good network of girlfriends, of family, of cousins, of aunts and uncles. And I have so many people that I can go to. And a lot of the time when I'm just like really maybe pent up with frustration or just anxiety or nerves or whatever it is with work, I just talk to someone about it. And I find so many times once I actually speak the words, like I think I know how I feel, but until I actually try to explain to someone how I feel, then I'm like, oh, it's not actually that bad. Like this is a manageable situation. Like I could figure this out. But somehow when I hadn't spoken it yet, it just felt like there were so many things going on and I don't know how to do it and I'm going to freak out. But if I sort of break it down simply to someone who maybe isn't involved in it at all, like a friend that's in another city or another place, and I really have to explain the whole thing, you're like, oh, okay, there is a lot going on, but we can organize it and it is doable. And sometimes that advice is a little bit hard to get from maybe your partner or spouse because you're annoyed that they think it's not as bad as you do. But if it's someone that's totally, not engaged in your life, I think that can be super helpful.
Well, I love that. And essentially what you're doing is you're going from catastrophizing to contextualizing. And what I mean, like when you're alone in your head, it's catastrophic. Everything is bad. I can't handle this. And it's, you start to spin. But when you have to explain it to somebody, then you find yourself explaining both sides of it. And then you are giving it that context and you realize, oh, like, and sometimes you realize, oh, this is actually what I was hoping to be able to do someday. And I'm actually doing it. Okay. So it comes with this stress. Now, what do I need to do? And you're able to see it in black light. So I love that. And you're right. Schedule, schedule, schedule. So much of our brain gets tired because we're making constant decisions every day. And so I always say is if there are decisions you're making every single day, get them off of your brain plate and instead just put them in your calendar so that it's not a decision to be made.
I also find when I'm overwhelmed, sometimes my inclination is to just like sit on the couch mindlessly and sort of play on my phone, have a show on. Like there's a million things going on, but I'm not like super engaged in any of them. I'm sort of like half present. But
Right.
actually, to make myself feel better, doing something like taking the candlelit bath or going in a
Hmm.
sauna or going on a walk. I really love listening to podcasts and taking Vestry on a walk, my dog. And that kind of makes me feel good that I've like done something. I did cross something off a list, but I also used it
Hmm.
as sort of me time. Um,
Hmm.
I just find actually doing something productive in a relaxing way. It doesn't have to be like a super large exercise, but just kind of like move or do something that you actually know is helping you. Because if I just
Hmm.
spend a night sitting on the couch, then I'm sort of annoyed at myself the next morning when I'm tired that I
Right.
didn't do more in that time. So it sort of like just
It,
makes the whole circle continue.
it's so true. We try to distract ourselves because we're feeling really stressed versus saying, okay, what is about this that is making me stressed and what can I do? Like, what's just one little thing? And sometimes it's something tiny. Like, I'm going to just clean up that room by picking up those 3 pairs of shoes, or I'm going to just get on and write out the 3 questions I want to answer for my video tomorrow. And suddenly you do those and you're like, then you have some great ideas. And next thing you know, you're like, you are just you're proud that you got this done and you feel so much better and you don't feel more overwhelmed. So again, it comes down to like, what's one thing I can do right now? Even if it takes me 5 minutes or 3 minutes, what's the one next thing?
What are some strategies for coping when you're feeling overwhelmed or you're in a new normal? And I think so many of us are in new normals now, whether we've changed jobs, we're working from home, we're working half from home. It seems like everyone had a baby in the last couple of years. So I think there's a lot of new normals going on. Um,
Right.
and I think people can really get burnout in new situations when they're adjusting. So is
Hmm.
there anything we can do to kind of help? I think sometimes even
Yes.
just acknowledging that it's going to be stressful helps. And like
Yes.
you shouldn't just be able
Yes.
to do it all easily from the get go.
Right.
But are there any
It,
kind of strategies that we can put in place?
yes, 100%. And so starting with that, I think is really important is acknowledging that there are seasons. And I've acknowledged that too. My children are young, they're 4 and 7. So this is a very physical, exhausting, noisy, boisterous, timeout, all those things season. And you recognize that like, 14 years from now, it won't be that way. 14 years sometimes can sound like a lot, but even 3 years from now, it won't be that way. So part of it is saying like this is the season, and no season. I do not believe, I'm not one of those who say you can have it all the time. No, you don't. What would you do with all of it all the time? You can have it all, however you define that, but not all at the same time, and that's okay. So giving yourself that break is number one. And again, let's look at resources and demands. In terms of resources, is just giving yourself some grace there. And one of the things we're looking at with the study, getting off of social media, because how do we feel when we're on social media? We're comparing ourselves to the person who has the perfect baby bedroom, and no baby bedroom ever looks that perfect. So, or the person whose children look perfectly, their clothes are perfectly ironed, again, they looked perfect for that moment on the photographer snapped the picture, and then like the next moment they had a blowout, which is not a hair blowout, which I learned after I had my first child. I did not know that. So that's, giving yourself some grace, and then let's lower our demands. So how can we lower our demands? A couple different things. One, I talk about triaging our to-do list, and of course that comes from the ER, because what we do, and the reason we feel crazy busy, is because our brains see issues, and our brain does not inherently know how to differentiate something that's a really big problem, like somebody's in danger, from, hey, we're out of peanut butter. It sees both and is like, we're out of this recipe and this person is in danger, I need to panic. So instead, we kind of have to deliberately say, this is, a red. This is something that's really important and really matters. This little thing is minor. I'm not going to let it really distract me and raise my stress. You got to, look at your to-do list. The first thing when you triage your to-do list is take things off. Find 2 things on there you can say no to. Second is to outsource. Is there anything on there that maybe, like we talked about in another video, prepping your veggies, that somebody else can do? And thirdly is to automate. What are those decisions you make every day? Like you may have eggs for every morning for breakfast. So you're not sitting there saying, what am I going to eat? That's all about triaging your to-dos. It gives you fewer decisions to make.
Right. Sometimes it's having so many decisions in your head all the time that you feel like you have to make. That's what is stressful.
Exactly. And then lastly, I would just say, find something you enjoy every day and do it. Take 5 minutes to do it. There's lots of other things we can talk about, but finding that, and enjoy it, savor it. If it's for 5 minutes, and turn off the phone. Don't carry your phone. Set it down for 5 minutes. Go do something you enjoy. It's going to lower your stress levels and just make you feel better.
I think it all comes down to also like if you give that time to yourself, if you can find it, if you can find ways to take the few minutes, I'm then going to be a better version of myself at work, or I'm going to, be more. I just notice personally when I get super stressed, I get more quiet. And then I'm like, I didn't give my job or my client my full personality that I really want. I am so vocal and I love to meet people and get engaged with people. And I'm sometimes on set and I'm like, I feel like I haven't spoken today, but I'm just so overwhelmed and tired that I just don't have the energy to do it. But then I'm frustrated that I wasn't kind of giving it my all. So
Then you're going to give yourself a hard time later about it, because you're stressed and you're just
mhm,
trying to rush through, because all you can think of all the other things you have to do.
mhm,
That's so true. I have one more thing I would tell
yeah,
people, is I call it BTSS, batch that small stuff. But since we have a large audience here of all ages, but we all
yeah,
get, I'm sure you get all those little things. It's like you get this one little, hey, can you send somebody $8 for this Venmo? As a parent, it's like, can you sign up for a school conference? Can you make sure you sign up to bring brownies for the baseball coach? Sign up for this tryout, sign up for this volunteer. These little things, and these
mhm,
small stuff will take up all your day if you let it take up all your brain power. So instead, I have a folder in my email, and anytime I get the small things, I send it to that folder. And then when I'm sitting in carpool, or you're sitting in the subway, or you're sitting waiting in
right,
a line at the airport, pull open that folder, do each of those things, which each of them really only take 3 minutes. Spend an hour, you
yeah,
power through your small stuff list,
yeah.
and it leaves the rest of your day open, and it gives you that brain space.
And then they're organized, they're all in one place. So when you do have a moment, because I mean, sometimes my email list gets so long and confusing that I'm like, I don't even know where to find that email that I didn't respond to yet. That's like sitting in the back of my head that I'm stressed about, but I never answered. And yeah, so it's again like organizing and just kind of making lists and preparing so that when you do have 5 minutes, you can really maximize that time.
make yourself a BTSS folder in your email. It'll make you laugh when you see it anyways. And then you have your BTSS time when you have otherwise downtime.
Okay, one last one is, even though we're not as busy because we're working from home, why do we always feel so tired?
So true. Everybody's felt this way this year.
Because we did cut out some of the day where we get to
Yes.
and from work. So you would think that gives you more time and that you can relax. But it seems like a lot of people working from home feel more tired and stressed than ever.
Yes. And so I think that's a number of different things. It's so true. It really is. And it's in part a symptom of burnout and pre-burnout is that depletion and feeling like I'm home, but apparently like you're not recovering. If really like your fiance is an athlete, you are an athlete, Kate. You understand like an actual having recovery in your day really matters to be able to grow. And so a couple different things. So obviously we're all getting less physical activity. We're getting less steps. It just, you walk from your kitchen to your office and you sit there all day long and you walk back to your kitchen and, that's it. So less physical activity. So adding in more steps, really important. Number two is the uncertainty of COVID and everything that really eats away at people. And so what I tell people again is when you are faced with that uncertainty, find what's in your control. What's in that self-efficacy that, what are things? Nobody can't control a pandemic, but you can control how you respond to it. Maybe it's, some days it might be like, oh, I organize our masks and I feel better in control of COVID now as a result. Third is social media. We're all on social media way more. And I think, as you mentioned, that's a distraction that doesn't help us feel better. So, really watch your social media time and, put the fourth is like put the fun back. A lot of people have stopped their sports leagues. They've stopped going out with the girls. They've stopped doing a variety of things. Now that we're getting back to normal, find those things that give you like what I call your fun, your excitement, what makes you pushes you. Put that back. We need that in our lives. And sometimes you'll feel like, oh, I don't feel like going at 6 p.m. I want to stay home in my PJs. Get over the hump. Go do those things that let you have fun. You will feel that energy immediately after.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the time people say, I'm so tired, I don't have time to work out. And I think workout is such a broad term. It doesn't mean that it has to be like a Olympic powerlifting or a crazy cardio class. It can literally be just like go for a walk. And I know that that doesn't necessarily feel like a great, crazy workout, but if you don't have a lot of energy, that can actually give you energy. Just like get the fresh air, get outside, get, in nature or in the concrete jungle, wherever you are, all of it works. Just move your body because that will actually help with everything, the bloat, the stress, the anxiety, all those things. And I always find when I'm walking, I'll end up, seeing something or thinking of something and then sending a friend like a funny text, and even just starting one of those like funny text chains with your girlfriends, like, oh, I'm out here, I walked by this restaurant, let's go here for brunch on Sunday. And then now all week we're going to be talking about something that we're looking forward to and we're making jokes. And now it's kind of like, I always find anticipation and something to look forward to, even if you're not presently in that moment, it can almost be more fun. Like the lead up can be such a fun experience.
Yes, absolutely. This is why I start decorating for Christmas on November 1st because it's the anticipation of it. But you're so right. So I love the walk. I would tell people if you're on phone calls all day, schedule one of them to be a walking phone call. Go put in your AirPods and walk. And if you have 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes if you don't have a phone call, go for a walk and don't call anybody on the phone. Walk quietly for 10 minutes. And that's the big, when people say my brain spins at night, I can't sleep. I say, well, is that the first time all day long that your brain wasn't listening to something? Because if so, your brain's digesting. If so, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes during the day that you're not listening to anything. Just walk and let your brain process then, and it won't process it at nighttime.
And actually, when you do the walk, if you're someone that's on calls or whatever all the time, putting your phone on airplane mode can be very powerful. Like take 10 minutes and just like, I am unreachable. Like no one can get me. And like the messages will come through when you turn airplane mode off. Like everything is still fine. The world will continue. But for, your 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you have, airplane mode can sometimes be like, wow, I'm taking me time, like, yeah, unavailable. That's fine. For a few minutes, just do it. This has been very helpful, very informative. I will advise all of my girlfriends to watch and learn. And I think learning about burnout and how to avoid it and how to kind of handle it if it's coming at you, which it probably will for many of us at some point or another in our lives, I'm so glad to learn about it. And I'm sure you will be learning more with your study. Is there anything that we can do to kind of help that?
Yes, so absolutely. So people can go to TrueveLab.com/burnout. Depending on when they
Okay.
are watching this video, the study might actually still be open. And if not, they can still sign up there to get our actual kind of curriculum and tips and resources that we can give people to help lower their symptoms of burnout so we can all feel better, because that's the goal. Let's find solutions to this to
Yeah.
help everyone.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure yet again. I look forward to our next meeting. Always
Yes.
happy to be learning and providing whatever wisdom I can. And we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We'll see you shortly.
Thank you so much, Kate. And yes, send us
Mwah.
any questions you have. Bye, Kate.
For sure. Bye.